Okay, well, we'll keep having a few people jump in. We gave them roughly till 11:04. It's good to see everybody joining us. Thanks so much for joining us today to hear a chat with Ranga Ramesh, who I'm very excited to have online here. Someone that I've had the pleasure of working with for quite a few years. Started in the early journey of elementary. So I think we'll just do intros to get us kicked off here for everybody. So for myself, just for those that I have not met yet that joined us here, founder and CEO at Elementary, company number 2 for me, built and sold one company previous to this, which is what got me into manufacturing, lived in Shenzhen, China, brought up production lines, sold the company to private equity, saw the value of bringing AI to the factory floor. And that was the inspiration behind founding Elementary. Now, AI has changed quite a bit since we founded it. Ranga and I have been through some of that journey together. We've, innovated through a lot of that, and then we continue to see more innovation growing now, which we'll talk about today. And so that's just a little bit about me and my journey, but really just so appreciative to have Ranga join us and to be able to share some of his experiences and lessons learned with us today for those out there, either in quality, on the customer side, the manufacturer side, for those in the machine vision industry. And so just really thrilled to be able to open the floor and share a conversation with Ranga today. And as I mentioned, for those that are just joining now, we'll start with a conversation between the two of us going through that journey, and then we will open the floor to Q&A at the end. Feel free to either post questions in the chat or save them, and we'll open the floor at that time. With no further ado, excited about that. Ranga, I will open it up to you if you would like to introduce yourself and your background.
Yeah, no, thank you, Arye. Thank you for inviting me to this discussion here. Look forward to sharing some of the experience over the years. Again, I'm Ranga Ramesh. I retired after 30 plus years in the consumer paper products industry, particularly Georgia Pacific, which is one of the largest paper and forest products companies in the world. I started my career in research and development and product development. That's probably my first half of my career there, and then spent some time in actual manufacturing in a plant for a few years, and then moved over to quality sort of towards the latter third of my career. So it's been a great ride, and enjoyed the journey, and now I'm retired and enjoying that even more. Traveling a lot and playing pickleball and camping
Nice.
around the country and
Different journey.
Journey, but it's been enjoyable.
Awesome. And Ranga, you have a unique degree that few have, a PhD in paper science and engineering. So
talk about that.
Okay, yes, I was going to say, maybe for the audience here, even go all the way back to deciding to get into the paper science industry and getting a doctorate in paper science, which is unique and very cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. My undergraduate actually was in chemical engineering, and probably in my junior year in college, I had the opportunity to visit a company where my brother actually was the CFO of the company, and they were in paper products. They were making specialty paper board that would go into insulation in these large high voltage transformers. It's a very demanding product they were making because quality was paramount, because you cannot have impurities that would short circuit the whole thing. So really got an exposure to paper there. And as I was kind of finishing up my chemical engineering degree, looking for different avenues to pursue, this is, obviously several years ago. And back in the day, it was either, you go into petroleum refining, like oil and gas, or you go into polymers. That's sort of the main avenues for chemical engineers to further specialize.
Yeah.
But paper seemed like a really neat thing for me once I had an exposure to this. So I actually went to Syracuse, which has a very specific dedicated school for forestry and paper products. And so I actually got a PhD in paper science. Now my kids, even today, they tease me about that. It's like they actually handed out PhDs in paper science. So yeah, they did. So
on paper.
yeah, I mean, it's really, if you think about it, it's material science.
Yeah.
But now paper is a material, right? It's a cellulosic, fiber material. So it's like, it is really material science, but with specific focus on, cellulose paper.
Yes.
So that's kind of what it was. And there's a lot of chemical engineering involved in some of the pulping areas and things like that. So it was a good match. And then, so that's pretty much how I got into paper. But even back then, my interest was always in sort of technology areas. So my PhD thesis, for example, was about mathematical modeling of a specific aspect of a paper process. So I guess that interest goes way back in terms of taking technology and being predictive of what might happen in a process, right? So that's sort of the general theme that I was interested in and kind of what I did back then. So.
And that tracks really well to what you mentioned at the beginning of the different roles you've had, which is, R&D. So early in the process, right? You're looking at different substrates, different chemistries, what the yields and outputs could be based on that, or different strengths. And you hold some specific, you were quite accomplished on the R&D side, I think, in terms of some of the products that you ended up actually inventing and working through. And that's kind of the front end of the manufacturing process. Then the plant floor manufacturing, production process, and then through to quality. But obviously, as we know and we'll discuss today, quality is important in each of those. To your point, even the mathematical modeling is with the idea of output and quality and yield. But maybe just kind of talk us through those three journeys in the different processes of that, where you began, and then how that led to how you think about quality by the time you took over that kind of director of quality and innovation role, how that grew from those initial learnings.
In a way, it was kind of fortuitous the way it happened, because, even today, if somebody were to get into quality, our first advice would be to say, understand the customer, right? You start with your customer, what they care about, right? And if you can translate those customer needs into product attributes, which is what R&D, product development, is all about, right? So how do I translate what a customer wants and design it into my product? So that's the first aspect of like working back from the customer. And once you understand what that is, then you can tie your process to your product attributes. If you can make that connection, so that's all kind of the evolution, if you will, kind of words in a way from the end user to back to your process. But I think that's a very logical and a very useful way to do it, because you understand why you're doing certain things, because at the end of the day, it's about what the customer wants, right? And if you're able to design that into it, and then kind of back into the process to say, what do I need to control in my process? Be able to consistently deliver what the customer wants, right? So if you think about product development, R&D there, and then I actually had this exposure in manufacturing, right? So there you really get into the real world, right? Meaning, what are the day-to-day challenges and manufacturing operations? What do they face? So how do you kind of balance the human side of things? Because you got operators on the floor, you have machines, and then you have all these requirements that have to be met. How do you put it all together? How do you make them understand what's important? So that sort of day-to-day manufacturing challenges I got exposed to, and I think it made me a better quality person later on in my career, because now I was able to sort of empathize with each of these different groups, right? So first you empathize with the customer, understand what they want, and now you also have an understanding of what it is day-to-day in manufacturing to be able to deliver those products to the customer. Once you develop that, then once you get into quality, you can then start to design things that are much more acceptable in manufacturing, because you're able to speak their language. You're able to understand and kind of empathize with their day-to-day challenges to say, okay, I know you have these challenges, but this is what really is important. So if you were to focus on these three things, that's going to help you maximize your customer return, right? So your overall acceptability of the product and so forth. So that, in a way, it sort of worked out that way for me.
Yeah.
I had not planned this out myself, but it just worked out that I kind of had this journey that really actually fit together pretty well.
That's awesome.
And then towards the end, closer to the end of my career, when I managed the quality innovation and transformation team,
yes,
then all of the technology bent that I've always had, because I always believed that technology is there to help us, right? It's a tool. And how do I leverage technology in a way that makes things a lot more efficient, a lot more effective? You truly solve chronic issues once and for all, because you're now putting permanent fixes in place, and then be able to achieve true quality improvement, right? Not just, when people are focusing on something and then they walk away, do something else, then everything falls apart, right? So you don't want that. You want sustainable, engineering solutions that are, in place for the long time, right? So for the long term.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree. And I think that's actually a great segue into double clicking on quality for a second. As you think about that journey and what you saw from the beginning of your career to getting into quality, innovation, and transformation at the end, how did the goals likely were the same. The ways in which you achieve those goals are constantly changing. And so, and also I'm curious if you would agree with that. Were the goals always the same, or did the goals shift as the capabilities and technology shifted in terms of ability to achieve different levels of quality? Walk me through how you saw those changes.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right about the goals not changing. Predominantly, they don't change much, right? Maybe some small changes over time, but as technology capabilities improve.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I want to meet the customer need, and I want to do it in the most productive, lowest cost way possible. That goal has always been there, right? That's always like 101 of manufacturing and delivering products to customers.
Yes.
Where things change, I mean, for example, back in the day, right? And I'm talking 20 years ago, quality was a very people-intensive operation, right?
Yeah.
I had, for example, in my team, quality auditors that worked 24/7, right? So we had 3 shifts, people covering all shifts. Their role predominantly was they'll just go around the manufacturing floor and sort of randomly inspect quality, besides whatever the operator was already checking.
Yeah.
These were sort of the police, if you would, quality police, that would just go around, just randomly checking things. So it's very people intensive, and it was all reactive, right? You really didn't do anything in a way that's proactive. It's like, I made the product. Now, is it good or not good? Is it acceptable or it's a reject? So sort of everything is lagging from where the process is, right? So one of the earliest challenges was, first of all, we're inspecting very little, right? As people inspecting it, I mean, you've seen a tissue operation, we'll make thousands of cases a day, or thousands of cases an hour, let's say.
Yes.
Right? So how do we then, you're inspecting a fraction of the fraction of what's being produced, number one. Secondly, the timeliness of everything, right? So I find a problem at 2:00 in the afternoon. Well, when did this problem start, right? How far back do I have to go? I have to go back to my last good check, if you will, last good inspection that said quality was on target. Yeah. And that sometimes could be several hours, right? So now I'm dealing with these thousands and thousands of cases of product that's already produced. So you're sitting to, rework all of that or whatever. So it's time consuming, it's cost and, prohibitive. So these are some of the early challenges was like, how do I deal with this situation with, so natural evolution.
They grow out of it being a manual process. So not that the goalposts were so different. The goalposts on quality were the same, but when you're performing it manually, there's just innate challenges because you're not looking at every part. Given that you're not looking at every part, when quality issues occur, to your point, from what I've seen, at those line speeds, they occur in a cascading nature. It happens on one, but then very often that means it happens on many. And then so when you go to quarantine those, You're just grabbing as many as you can. And it's kind of spiraling out of the fact that you don't have 100% inspection, traceability, and things we'll probably touch on when you're doing it manually.
Right. And the other thing was, obviously in those days, we didn't readily have technology solutions to fix everything, right? So early on, our solutions were all focused around how do I bring consistency in the inspection process, right? The manual inspection process. So we created, first of all, like company-wide standards for quality. And then developed a lot of training videos. Back in the day, training is always the first number one go-to thing, right? It's like, go train your people to do the inspections right. So it was a lot of time and effort spent on uniformity of definitions and specifications. And secondly, on developing training material, learning and development tools to build the skills of the people that are actually running the line or running, being in the quality department. So, but that was very successful, right? I mean, for what it was pretty successful in the sense we were able to then at least bring down the number of hours. So we brought hourly checks, inspections, for example. So at the worst, if it's at 2 p.m., you find something bad, you only had to go till 1 p.m. to say, okay, that's 1 hour's worth of product. So those were the sort of improvements we were making because, again, that's what was available, right? It was limited technology to be able to do all that. So those were some of the early struggles, with quality.
Absolutely. And then, things started shifting and you went back to that early desire for technology and to apply, mathematical principles. Certainly those were there, I'm sure, on the manual side, but you can make it faster, more automated, and more uptime. So as you started looking at quality problems that you didn't think you could solve and shifting into tackling them with new methods, be it technology, automation, walk us through that initial shift and journey in terms of some of those problems you looked at, and maybe for the audience, how to think about going from manual to automated. How did you guys make that mental and cultural leap to go from manual processes to automated processes?
Yeah, I mean, I think as things moved, you started getting into vision systems. They were starting to get available. So we purchased some of the early versions of vision systems that could do product inspections, but it was still, in a way, it was very rules based. And it's like very rigid rules, and sometimes the process is variable enough. So let me back up for a second and tell you, paper products, right? Think about paper products. You start with raw materials, which is either trees, or it's recycled paper. If you're talking about trees, that's a natural material, right? Depending on the geography, the time of the year, we had a rainy season or not, or this or that, fiber properties change all the time, right? So it's not a consistent raw material to begin with. And if it's recycled paper, it's even worse. I mean, you can imagine what comes in a recycle stream, right? You really do not have a whole lot of control over some of that raw material coming in. So invariably, the process is susceptible to these kind of variations. So, your strict rules-based systems don't do a great job, right? Because there's enough gray space. I'll talk about some of that in as we discuss, like, how do we take it to the next level with AI and so forth, right? Yeah, exactly. It's the gray space. In fact, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it's not black and white. It's a lot of gray space in that type of a that type of a product line. That your traditional rules-based approaches.
When people ask me about AI vision systems, I always go to those organic inspections that we perform, where paper, wood, something that's organic, to say there's natural deviation in this that has to be built into the criteria. And that's where a data-driven system can be so valuable, because you can take that gray space and learn from it and kind of bake the deviation in. Creating rules to adhere to all of that organic nature, to your point, can be very difficult.
Right. And as you know, in the paper industry, there's this two distinct unit operations, right? You're dealing with first you make the paper,
Yes.
right? These giant rolls of paper, and then you convert them into these toilet paper or kitchen towels or whatever they are. If you think about the complexity of the process of a paper making process, I mean, first of all, paper machines are really like mind-blowing things when you see them first, right? It's like a huge room. It's like sometimes they're 100 meters long. And
I was blown away the first time I walked in when we first started working together, just the scale.
And all of the different things that can change. It's a very complex process.
Yeah.
Ideally suited for AI, right? If you think about machine learning and AI and just using these attributes that are not all nicely correlated, like in some that you may find in other processes. So you're dealing with things that are, though some of the interrelationships you don't even know what they are, right? You got to let the models tell you what they are in a way, because we never had that level of capability before, where you say, here are 500 variables, things that are machine knobs and settings on a paper machine, and from a modeling standpoint, figure out for me what's important, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what's affecting the quality attributes that I care about. And I mean, that capability, I would say, probably wasn't as easily available as it is today. So it's really ripe for that type of an approach to say, I can take that and model that and be in a position to understand what's actually happening.
And culturally, was that empathy that you had given your earlier roles key to convincing people in these first inflection points to switch over and trust automated machine systems doing this, AI systems doing this?
Yeah, I would say again, I'm not trying to brag, but the fact that I understood paper, and paper manufacturing, I'm able to speak the language of what an operations manager or somebody in a manufacturing site cares about and is aware of in terms of different sensitivities. So part of the success I think my team had was we had really a good blend of skills. I brought a lot of the domain knowledge of paper and consumer products. And then I had people in my team that were machine learning experts or computer vision experts and data analysts and so forth. So we were able to bring sort of different expertise to then be able to define the problem correctly and then be able to work on the right problem to solve, right?
Yeah.
And then, I think one of the key things I would say as people embark on trying to get technology into manufacturing is, do not try one of those, hey, throw everything on the wall and see what sticks approach. Try to understand what the client is trying to figure out, right? So what is their vision of what automation can do for them? What are they thinking about? So in our GP, principle-based management is one of the critical management philosophies, and the top dimension that we worry about is called vision alignment, right? You've got to have aligned vision of what the client is actually thinking about in terms of what they're trying to achieve with AI. And then you, as an automation provider, are you able to align to that vision and then be able to work with them? So the engagement is really important. Why you're doing something is really important, because without that, I don't think there's a good buy-in. And I'm telling you, you can have the greatest technology in the world. If you don't have buy-in from the operating floor, you won't last long. You may sell one system, but beyond that, it's going to be about, do they truly buy into it? Do they understand that it's actually helping them?
Right.
And making their lives better, and also be able to meet their customers' needs better.
Yes.
If you're not simplifying that for them, you can have the greatest technology in the world. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Completely. So, I think back fondly, but also, the amount of text messages between you and I in the early days, time on the floor together with the systems, that alignment and understanding the need was just so valuable to both of us marching in the same direction.
Yeah. The other thing I would say, it works both ways, right?
Yes.
If I'm the company, if I'm the manufacturer, of course, you go interview any CEO, they're like, do you want to bring AI into your manufacturing? It's like, yeah, absolutely. I want to, of course we want to leverage AI.
Yeah.
But what does it mean? Like, what exactly do you have in mind? Like, how are you going to do that, right?
Right.
how is your organization ready for that? And are you preparing them with the right approach, right?
Yeah.
So a client that's not engaged with the automation provider, you're not going to have success, right? You have very limited success if you're not engaged as a partner with whoever's bringing the automation in to truly understand the capabilities of the system, and then being able to match that to what you're looking for with your needs. So that sort of marriage is going to be super important for it to be successful. And that's what we saw, right? I mean, when we're engaged, we get more mileage out of it. And the systems last longer. The operators love it. I mean, you get all the good things that happen with it.
Totally. So maybe taking that one step further, modern technology, I mean, even since we started together, AI is just on a exponential curve in terms of capabilities. We've hit some inflection point moments, on large language models and VLMs, like the visual language models, vision language models as well, where there's just more understanding, zero-shot capabilities. Obviously, as you mentioned, vision systems have been in manufacturing and industry for quite a while, but they're really progressing to be AI vision systems. You obviously in your career with us, we're deploying AI vision systems into facilities. And so I'm curious, as you think about this new alignment, if you were back in that seat as the executive, A, where did you see that curve continuing to go? And then B, what are the things that you would be most excited about today as you've seen AI hit this exponential curve in terms of areas that you think, wow, someday quality data and insights will really be able to get driven in a unique way that I can't wait to see how the world solves those problems.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's what I think about, right? So information is great, but action is better, right? So based on where, kind of where our journey was, it's one thing to have inspections and have information and have all of this data, but we really want to take it 2 steps farther than that, right? Meaning get all the PLC connections to your system. And start controlling. So total feedback loop, fully closed loop control of things. So it minimizes any kind of operator, intervention or involvement needed to just perform routine stuff, right? That would be easily the next logical step. So, and then beyond that, you further go, with AI now that you have all of the data around, okay, what's good for quality? Then you start bringing in all of the machine parameters and all of the different things. And then do a sort of pull it all back together into a complete model where you start with a process that's making fewer defects in the first place.
Exactly.
You don't even need to worry about a whole lot of inspection once you can build that full robust model all the way back upstream. So I wanted to share this on a little slide that I put.
Yes, please.
Kind of, at least on the way I'm thinking about it in terms of a flow. Right?
I think you're right on. Please feel free to pull that up and screen share. I was going to say it's almost 2 distinct problems. There's closing the loop on the quality control problem and taking action on quality control, where you're rejecting or you're stopping the line, PLC controls. Then there's closing the controls loop on quality management, where you are adjusting parameters upstream to avoid making those bad parts to begin with. When we talk about closed loop, I get very excited about that full loop process as well with those upstream parameters.
So this is sort of how if you can see it. It basically shows in a picture sort of what I was just talking about, right? So you sort of start on the bottom here with the customer, so the downstream inspections. If you're starting your journey for the first time in automation, I would start with the downstream closer to the customer, because ultimately that's where you want to start and make sure your customer is getting top quality product. So pretty much you do all of your inspections downstream, and basically it improves your quality going to customers, but you could also generate a lot of waste, right? So because you're rejecting bad product or defective product, that's going to increase your waste. So the natural evolution from there then is starting to move upstream, right? And that's where you bring in your predictive analytics and modeling to then be able to correlate, okay, when I have good things happen, what does the process look like and how do I model that, right? So therefore, then that at that point, you're now setting the machine up for success to begin with. And you're having fewer and fewer defects going out the door. So you build quality into the process. And then you have obviously significantly reduced waste. Now, this is where it's more complex and challenging. And bring in AI, right? I mean, in the last 12 months, Arye, since you and I kind of went on the journey, things have changed so much that all of this now becomes doable, right? Easily possible to be able to fully close the loop.
Yes.
Achieve that type of building in quality. Start with the right things in the first place. So then the downstream inspections become less and less important as time goes on, right? So
yeah. Our relationship, it's public, our relationship with Rockwell Automation and our collaborations, obviously in North America, the major industry leader in controls and control systems. And what you're showing here is in many ways a part of the excitement of that journey together, which is, the PLC is the brains of the production line. The inspection system is the eyes on the production line. But to your point, they are downstream of each other where the inspection eyes, the output or controls are really kind of that final step that's generally scrap producing or downtime producing. You're either stopping the line or you're kicking off parts. But to your point, with where AI is going, feeding that back in upstream, which we now have, even since we last worked together, while you were enjoying retirement, we now have an AI. We now have an AOI with Rockwell with tier 1 tags and integration, where you can be sharing your vision data upstream to the PLC. And then to your point, that is an area where closed loop becomes highly valuable.
Right. And the thing is, you could also add some inspections upstream as well, right? To augment the data you have, you might need additional data.
Yeah, it's not always just finished goods, right? I know in inspection, we love to talk about final goods, packaged inspection or final unit. But to your point, paper is such a process-oriented manufacturing capability that upstream, there are really interesting areas to look at as well, especially when you can feed them into the control side.
Yeah, I mean, good manufacturing practice is you doing things upstream correctly.
Yeah.
So you place less emphasis on quality checks at the later stages, right? So that's really what you want.
Yeah.
Just one other thing, and I think I think somebody brought it up earlier in the chat. This is the gray space we were talking about, right? So
yeah,
these are sort of early vision systems, very clearly measurable things.
Yes.
Let's say a level of liquid in a bottle or something like that. It's either pass or fail. It's it's a very clearly measurable thing. Those are great for those kind of easy black and white sort of inspections. But where things get a little murky is when it's not so perfect, right? So it's a little gray space involved between what an accept is and reject is. Now machine learning becomes that much more. It has to bring the horsepower to be able to handle that.
I love this way of showing it. Yes.
Yeah, and then you just start adding in AI to then really sort out where that gray space. How do you handle the gray space and what's acceptable, right? So that part of what where AI can easily fit in and be a really useful tool.
Yes, and this is a good example of where vision alignment between the provider and the customer is so valuable. Right. Actually, I'm thinking back to our early journey together, and that gray space became a graded anomaly threshold capability that came from your feedback directly to our team. And so figuring out and then being cloud-based and being able to push out those features, this is where continuous improvement is not just on the manufacturing side. You want continuous improvement on the automation provider so that we're evolving with your values and vision for the product as well.
And in my experience, I want to tell you this, Elementary actually had one of the better products in terms of less of a labeling requirement. As we were talking to different providers, I mean, some of them had very extensive labeling requirement.
Right.
And honestly, sometimes that's not doable, right? So
Yeah.
I cannot possibly generate every possible defect that might happen on a line. You're going to have to be able to, your system, your machine learning has to be able to handle that. And I thought Elementary did a good job with that. And, I know you're taking further advances in that area.
Correct. It's one of the areas, and it leads to my next line of questioning around operators. But to me, this is the next major leap in machine vision, which is going from supervised machine vision with heavy operator burden on data labeling. And even we were great at, we did reduce that burden for our customers early on.
Right.
But as we've seen the inflection point in AI, to me, it's, why is ChatGPT just so mind-blowing? It's a zero-shot tool. You don't show up to ChatGPT and train it on a bunch of data and then start talking to it.
Right.
You show up and it just has zero-shot knowledge when you query it. I think in automation, we really are trying to bridge that gap to zero-shot tools. And so Elementary has new products coming out like Vision Stream, which is a zero human label self-supervised learning system where the AI actually self-supervises and labels its own data and deploys its own models. And we'll see in the next couple months, you'll see even more of that rolling out from Elementary. And so I completely agree. Lowering that burden is just so important. And it leads me to my next line of questions, which is, as AI and automation continues to scale and get introduced and get more and more sophisticated on the factory floor, you've lived the whole journey. Where do you see the role of the human operator evolving? And how do you see that continuing to change and evolve on the factory floor?
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you think about, an operator on a line, right? If you can take the quality tasks off their table, they're able to focus on higher value things that they can do on the line, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you an example. One of our first projects was in a plant when I had actually had cameras and robotics and all of that and set it up on a line. So all these operators in the nearby lines, they were all watching all of this. And then, they sometimes, they have these little break rooms, where they all from different lines get together. And so they were like, I was in the break room with them, and they were like, so you're here to take our jobs. So I had to say, okay, all right, so let's talk about this.
Yeah.
How many of you here, raise your hands, love to do your quality checks?
Yeah.
Not one hand went up.
Exactly.
It's like, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is get rid of the tasks that, it's important to do, but you hate doing because it takes away time from other things you're doing on the line, right? So that really opened their eyes to saying, okay, yep, I know what you're doing now. And we were able to have a meaningful conversation after that. So I kind of think that that'll evolve further.
Yeah.
If you're able to do more, and they even have to supervise it less and less to be able to manage, because now you're moving everything upstream, they're making fewer defects to begin with. They're going to love that, right? So they're going to be able to elevate their the work they do to the higher value things. And I really believe that overall it's going to help improve quality, productivity, yield on the line, all of those good things. And that can only make the operator happy, right? Just like, because it's going to be a good thing for them.
Yeah.
So I see that as an evolution of this.
And when you think about that, are there new skill sets or capabilities you think the future engineers and plant floor managers and operators will need as these new technologies come in? Are there things you would advise the next generation of manufacturing engineers and quality managers to think about and train up on getting into the industry?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for asking that. Bottom line is, technology is your friend. Don't ever forget that, right? It's not an adversary. It's not there to create problems. It is really there as a tool.
Yes.
So as a person that's coming into quality, or as a manufacturing engineer, I go back to the thing that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Understand your customer and their needs and what you're trying to do in manufacturing. Many times I find that engineers get hired they are so focused on running a line or technical aspects of the line, they forget why the line exists in the first place, right? It's making a product.
Yeah.
If you don't understand your customer, you won't understand some of the requirements that the product has and why you're having to do certain things, right? So that's kind of where I would really start is really a non-technical advice is to learn everything you can about the customer and the product and the marketplace too. To some degree, you need to understand what the competition is. Competition is aggressive, right? It is fierce, especially in this day and age with what's happening and with different things. You're fighting for every market share point in the field out there. Therefore, it's really, really critical for engineers on the line to know why they're doing what they're doing, and then be able to understand the technology and truly understand its capabilities. It's not going to solve everything. Sometimes they have basically unrealistic expectations of what a technology can do for them, right? So to be able to understand the technology and make sure you know how to keep it running.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of keeping it operational. The technology is only as good as it's on and it has uptime, right?
Yeah.
If the technology is down, you're not really using it. So we see this all the time, right? Oh yeah, we'll get to that, but we're doing other things. No, you got to get this one going, because really without that, you don't know what you're making.
Yeah.
So inspection technologies have become to a point where you've got to have them up and running. So
yes, and my hope is as the industry gets comfort that technology is their friend, to your point, it's a tool to be used. It's your friend. It's not a replacement.
Right.
I would hope, we do have a major labor shortage in manufacturing in North America. There are just a growing number of open positions that cannot get filled. But at least my hope in the industry is that these technologies become a benefit to why people want to work in the industry. I get to get hands-on with applied AI and innovation that's making the physical things that are needed in day-to-day life. So to your point, it's, understand your customer. In many cases, you are the customer too. Think about it from your perspective. You are the customer of this product. You understand the physical world in many cases, and you are a consumer that can think, put yourself in those shoes, and then also think about the capabilities that you're learning and the innovation you're learning to make that possible and to make the manufacturing of those goods in North America or wherever possible. I hope that continues to drive re-engagement, given the need for more people to get into this industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I were to talk about it in terms of habits, right? So it's empathy.
Yeah.
What the customer is and what the manufacturing operation is doing, so they understand that. And then secondly, it's about curiosity. Be very curious, right? The technology is going to help you achieve better things. And as even when we did our projects, in plants where we had engineers that were engaged, we had a lot better success than ones where they had other priorities or other things and never really spent the time they need to spend to make these as effective as possible, right?
Totally.
So that would be the key thing, is knowing and understanding, and then really engaging with the technology is pretty important. So,
yeah, I love that. Empathy, curiosity, I think those are so key, just fundamental principles to any of the roles in manufacturing and any of the manufacturing industries. So I think we'll turn it over to Q&A in 1 second. So if people want to start thinking about their questions, we'll have you type those into the chat and I can ask them of Ranga for you. But as people are doing that and queuing up questions, just a fun one to kind of end with. Well, first of all, thank you so much. Anything we missed that you wanted to make sure you got out there, feel free to add in a wrap up and kind of reflection. I think the empathy and curiosity for the next generation in manufacturing is such an awesome way to end here. But one fun question we had at the end too was just, if you walked into a tissue production line today, what's the first thing you look for and focus on? If we bring you back in, your nice trips to Florida to see your daughter are over, you've got to get back to work on the production line. What's the first thing you focus on or look at today?
I've always done this anytime I walked into a plant, is to go observe the product. To me, that is a reflection of the engagement of the operator, their understanding of what's important to the customer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I used to work, with some of our major customers and do plant visits with them, right? So you got to learn from that also, that experience, to say, what do they care about, right? They care about what's being produced, and does that reflect the kind of expectations a customer would have?
Right.
And it also shows the level of engagement. Is the operator having some ownership to what they're producing? To me, that speaks volumes. It's way better than sitting in a conference room and listening to presentations, because right there, just seeing the product and talking to the operators and having a discussion, you basically understand what's happening in a manufacturing operation. How are they leveraging technology, or ultimately how that translates to what they're producing day in and day out, right? So that's where I would start. And to me, that brings in all the different elements in a manufacturing facility, whether it's leadership focus or customer focus and level of operator engagement in the process, because the product is a reflection of what they're doing, right? So ultimately, that's what the customer cares about.
Totally agree. That's great. I like that. I might steal that now. Every time I go into the facility, start with the end product. I agree.
I don't go to a conference room. I don't meet the leadership or management. I just go straight to the floor.
Yeah.
From there, I can go back and talk about
it. Because I've seen you do it. I can attest. I've seen you walk up to the line, even if we're doing something else. Like, you can't turn the that side off on your brain, where you're looking at the product, seeing where their issues are, and kind of processing, what does this mean for how, what are they thinking about? What are they doing upstream? What are their priorities? Yeah.
And even after I'm retired and I bring products home, I'm like,
oh yeah, well, that's the thing about being in quality. None of us can buy anything without telling, our significant others, like, oh, did you see this? That was definitely a manufacturing defect. Like, absolutely.
Like, wow, this product has degraded over the years,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's, you can't take that away from me. So.
Totally. All right. So anyone that's got a question, feel free to pop that in the chat here if there are any. This was a great conversation. We went a little over what I expected, and so we covered a lot of ground, which is great. Yeah. Happy to answer questions if there are any here. But Ranga, just while those are coming in, thank you so much. We miss you. We miss working with you day to day. And so it's just such a pleasure to get back on the line with you and be able to talk through all of this journey and continue. There's been many great dinners together around these types of conversations. And so it's a pleasure to get back on. We do have a first question in from Eddie. Any fun firefighting stories from the trenches? So,
yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. Definitely many firefighting stories. I'll give you a couple of examples, I guess. We started producing, tissue in one of our plants that had never made tissue paper before, right? So it was making printed paper, copy paper, and then we added a couple of production lines to make tissue. And the first case, there were some, obviously some expectations around getting product out and so forth. So we had several of us from the quality team were on a production line. The walls even hadn't been built around us yet, right? So we had tarp hanging and we were making product, and it was dusty. So we literally had to wipe down every package before it went to the truck, right? So it's literally, we had a quality team standing there with a cloth towel wiping down every package before it got shipped to the customer, because we were, again, trying to learn the line. Is a brand new production line, trying to make it. And so we had to do that, right?
No walls. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah. So it was like literally tender loving care on every package.
Wow. Amazing.
Going out to the customer. So that was definitely one of them. But, I'll tell you one of the most rewarding things, I guess I'll give a couple of examples.
Yeah.
One is, back in early 2000s, our AngelSoft product had a major relaunch. And AngelSoft before that was really a very small regional brand. Wasn't anywhere on the map on bath tissue. But in 2000, we had a tremendous product upgrade. We had a patented embossed design. I was one of the inventors of the emboss.
I didn't know if we could. I was going to say that earlier. You hold some unique patents in the industry, which is awesome.
Yes. So, and then the paper quality was upgraded and so forth.
Yes.
And it was a major launch, right? So it was national, really put AngelSoft on the map to the point where it grew from $200 million of sales to $1 billion of sales in a span of about 10 years.
Wow.
And became GP's first billion-dollar brand in 2009, right?
Wow.
So AngelSoft was. So that was, to be part of that launch, and the beauty of it was that actual patented embossed design lasted for 20 years, almost full length of the life of the patent, actually.
Wow.
So, it's nice to see. I have other patents, but none of them ever got commercialized. At least this one, went through the full 20 years before then they moved on to other things. And it's still a very growing brand and a very successful brand for GP. So that was great. And then I would say the quality innovation team work.
Yes.
I mean, for the first time, truly, as a quality professional, we were solving problems in a sustainable way, right? We weren't just, we're going to inspect more with more people, none of that stuff. But this was technology that put engineered solutions for quality problems, chronic quality problems, that it took them away and really made them disappear. So that was it's almost like a full circle of, okay, you started with knowing what the customer wants. Now, finally, you're able to actually deliver that, consistently and in a sustainable way. So that was pretty important and very satisfying towards the end of my career there. So
that's awesome. We have one more question. Those are such great stories. We can go on all day. One more question from VJ, which is around strategies that could reduce customer fear and build trust when introducing AI into operational processes, especially in pulp and paper industries. And these don't have to be vision systems. I would say, we obviously have our experience in vision and spoke to that shared machine vision, but that shared vision together of, back to your point, what are we delivering to the end customer? What are our shared goals? Are we focused on that together? But I think, fear and trust are two critical areas putting AI anywhere in the manufacturing facility.
Yeah. I mean, from the customer standpoint, ultimately, they don't care what made the product, right?
Yeah.
The product meets their needs. They don't need to know if AI was used in the process or not used in the process, because it meets their needs. Especially with toilet paper and paper towels, the needs are pretty explicit. It's not like, oh, do I really understand their needs? We understand their needs pretty well, right? So not a problem there.
Yes.
But in terms of manufacturing, that was a great question, in the sense, one of our challenges always as you bring in technology is the fear to cut the cord from an operator intervention standpoint. So very hard to get people to buy into closed loop systems where people are not touching something.
Yeah.
But the way you overcome that is you maybe carve out certain pieces of the process and demonstrate that closed loop control with AI can do it effectively, and in fact do it better than what a human being can do, because it doesn't have moods, or it doesn't get tired. It's objective. It's just going to keep going, right?
Interesting. So with closed loop, you would almost say, bite by bite, or at least prove it out in one controlled process first. Don't go for necessarily the whole project, where then an operator is going to say, but I need to intervene because I don't trust it to do such a big surface area of controls.
Yep.
Find that key area first.
Yeah, it's almost like self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
How comfortable do we get just to say, okay, I'm just going to lay back and take a nap when the car is driving? We're not there yet, right? We may still be a little hesitant about, okay, do I really get to leave the control to the car or not? I mean, to let the AI do its thing.
Yeah.
Similarly, in the manufacturing process, they're afraid of a lot of things. I mean, as you know, in paper industry especially, heavy moving equipment, something were to go wrong, you don't want something flying off or catching fire or whatever. Therefore, I mean, some of those concerns are valid.
Yeah.
And you do have to take them, and kind of prove it step by step. so that people don't have the fear, right? And they do have the trust to say, yep, that can work. And we actually proved that in a couple of our vision systems that we installed. We were able to show that, yeah, I can do a closed loop. Operator doesn't have to get involved, and I can get a more consistent product.
Exactly.
Right. So we were able to do that.
Awesome.
But you got to just do it, take it bite-sized, right? So
Totally.
keep working your way up.
Awesome. Well, that takes us right to time.
Okay.
I'd love to spend all day. I mean, it's just such a great conversation. Always a pleasure to spend time with you. I'm sure everyone here got a lot out of this conversation. We will continue to take the recording and share it more publicly. And so we will post for everyone to rewatch and to share more. But Ranga, just thank you so much for being such an awesome expert in the industry and, guide to the next generation that is working in this space and a great partner to those in AI and automation. As you see from the nice emojis coming up on screen, everyone in the industry benefits and gains when they get to work with you through all of this. So thank you for being such a great leader in this space.
Oh, thank you, Arye. I enjoyed the conversation. Even though I'm happily retired, it's once in a while nice to maybe be able to share the knowledge, So
yeah, well, I know we can't get you too excited, or you're gonna have to get back out there. So awesome. Well, thank you, Ranga. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we'll talk more soon.
Thank you again.
Take care.
Bye-bye.